Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and again I am joined by my good friend Brandon, also known as What About Narb. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Ready to talk some Nintendo.
We are talking some Nintendo. 2022, exactly. We're going to be doing our 2022 predictions for this discussion video. A few days ago, you may have seen a previous video where we sort of speculated on which game could be coming out first and getting announced first out of Metroid Prime Remake, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and the rumored Donkey Kong. Those are all rumored games, and they could impact our predictions for 2022, so you can check that out after this one or beforehand, doesn't matter. But for this video, we're focusing on just how we think 2022 is going to shake out for Nintendo. When will we see Nintendo Directs? What games are going to make it out? What will be the release timing of them, and how it's all going to come together. Now, before we jump into things, let me first very quickly talk about my social media. You may see a few different things here on screen. You can check that all out. It's linked in the description below. And of course, if you like what you're seeing here, you can subscribe. So Brandon, I'm thinking we kind of do this like month by month, January through December. That way there's a bit of a sort of a nice little outline that we can follow there. So I'll let you kind of talk about January. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have pretty much the same sort of thoughts on January, but maybe it'll differ a little bit. So tell me what you're thinking in terms of what we're gonna see from Nintendo in January.
Okay. Before we get into that, actually, I want to do a prediction that just encompasses all of 22. Is that all good?
Sure.
All right. No new hardware announcements, guys. It's not gonna happen. Sorry to tell you, but it's just not gonna happen.
Really?
No Switch Pro, no Switch 2. They're not gonna talk about it.
Well, I mean, I guess that goes against my prediction, because I was gonna predict that for this January we're gonna have a massive Switch 2 presentation just announced out of nowhere, and everything would be announced. No, I'm just kidding. That's not. I agree with you. It's not gonna happen, I don't think. And we've talked about it before. Switch OLED just came out. Nintendo's talked about how they want to push OLED throughout next year. And when you take into consideration of the chip shortages, even if Nintendo wanted to come out with new hardware, it's probably not even feasible. Right now, they're still trying to get out OLEDs. So that would be an incredibly quick turnaround. Not to mention, when you look at the history of Switch revision releases, we usually wait 2 to 2.5 years. And then when we look at the history of 3DS revisions, because people like to bring that up to sort of argue, oh, of course the Switch Pro could come out. Even with the 3DS, we had to wait over a year for every single revision. It was a year and a couple months each time. So if we're expecting new hardware next year, that would be the quickest turnaround we've seen between 3DS and Switch, and the implication of a Pro or even a Switch 2 would be that it'd be more expensive than OLED, which is already a more expensive model than the other models. In other words, it's just very, very unlikely. So I totally agree with you, Brandon.
Nothing's pointing towards it. There's no evidence. There's actually tons of evidence on the contrary. So yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I do think anything that has been suggested by credible venues about a 4K upscaler or some sort of new, more powerful hardware for Switch was, one, conflated with Switch OLED, but also two, maybe with like research and development, or maybe simply changed plans. All of this is a possibility. I do think Switch 2 is in the works, and it may not be that far off, but not next year.
2023, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe by the end. Or early, who knows? But we'll save that for our 2023 predictions a year from now.
Yes.
So, going into January, though, I actually, I talked about earlier in the channel. I think there's a possibility we can see a Nintendo Direct as early as January, because we didn't get any sort of announcements at the Game Awards, but that sort of Monster Hunter Rise trailer, which was just an update on a DLC for the game that's already been out for a while. Now, I'm not going to predict a Nintendo Direct for January. I'm simply bringing it up as a possibility. However, I do think there's going to be a decent sort of media hype cycle leading up to the release for Pokemon Legends Arceus. This is a big deal release. It's slated for January 28th, if I remember correctly. This is going to be a big deal. This game might be the best-selling Pokemon game on Switch. Like, it has that kind of potential, because it's like an open-ish adventure Pokemon game, and from an outsider's point of view, perhaps even an insider's point of view, it's the most ambitious Pokemon game yet. So it has tons and tons of potential here. So Nintendo doesn't need really to put out a Direct in January, even though we didn't get announcements from the Game Awards really. They can just go full hype cycle on Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that may include a Pokemon Direct, which you may find weird because normally we get Pokemon Directs in February. But the thing is, with the release of Legends Arceus in January, we may not see Generation 9 come out this year. And if that's the case, there may not actually be a strong need to have a Pokemon Direct in February like they usually do. They'll put out a Pokemon Direct to talk more about Legends Arceus in January, and then maybe we get a Pokemon Direct later into next year. We usually get like 2 Pokemon Directs or Presents or whatever throughout a year anyway.
Usually one around E3 time.
Yeah. So, you know, there still will be opportunities for us to get more Pokemon information, not just about the mainline games, but spin-offs as well. But I could see Generation 9 coming out after 2022, which is weird because for the last few generations, we've waited exactly 3 years. Game Freak has been on a very strict schedule, but things are a little different now. Sure, with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, they sort of stuck to their annual release schedule for Pokemon games, but Legends Arceus is the actual project that Game Freak was working on. So to think, Legends Arceus, the most ambitious, arguably at least, ambitious Pokemon game yet from Game Freak, it's coming out late January, but they'll follow that up with a whole new generation, not just like a sequel or spin-off or sort of, you know, kind of like the Ultra Sun or a remake kind of thing. Just like, you know, 10 months later, I think that might be expecting a little much. I think they might push things up a little bit, especially when you consider that there's been such a high demand for Pokemon Company and Game Freak to up the ante here. They may want to space things out a little bit more. So I'm not saying we have to wait all the way until holiday 2023 for Generation 9, so instead of a 3-year gap, it's a 4-year gap, although that might not be a bad idea, but I am thinking maybe we wait until like February or March of next year to get the next generation, which would fall in line back to previous generations before Gen 5, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time. Okay. It's been over 10 years since this whole new pattern of Pokemon, but we may be looking at a shift here. But either way, I think January is going to have a big focus on Pokemon Legends Arceus.
I agree. That's kind of like when I put down for January too. I do think there will be a January Pokemon Direct, and I do agree that it will focus on Legends Arceus because I feel like there's still a ton of the game we haven't seen. I feel like we actually haven't really seen that much, really. So I do think they need a Direct. So I do think there will be a Direct. And I also think they might also talk about some other stuff, like small stuff, like maybe something for Pokemon Unite or some other small game.
For sure. There will be some sort of Unite update, absolutely.
I also predicted that no teaser for a late 2022 game, a holiday 2022 game. Maybe they'll talk about and announce like an early 2023 game at E3 or something, or like around that time in another Direct. But yeah, I don't think they're going to talk about it. Yeah. Especially because they need to talk about Arceus and focus on that. Why are you going to be announcing a whole brand new game right before your game comes out?
Yeah, I am also kind of in agreement with you. I am thinking that we'll see like a mid-year Pokemon Direct, or Presents. They've been calling them Presents the last couple years. And that's when they'll announce Generation 9 for maybe early next year. That is my thinking right now. Could change, but right now, that's what I'm sticking with. So I think we're pretty much on the exact same page here. But what about February, though? Like, where do we stand on February? Because that's where I think things are a little bit harder to sort of predict. Because January is obvious. We already know that Legends Arceus is coming out then. February, on the other hand, I don't even think we know about any actual release dates from big Nintendo games in February. I don't think there's anything slated so far. And at this point, I don't think there will be.
No, I'm getting that feeling. Yeah, I feel like February is going to be like the dead month of the early year. There's always like one month that's like mostly nothing. I think that's going to be February. And but make up for that, that's when they're gonna have announcements, baby. Because we need release dates. Like, as much as we got announcements for things at E3 and in that September Direct, we didn't get a lot of release dates for like anything. So we need to know when things are releasing. So we're definitely gonna get a Direct. I mean, we gotta have one.
I 100% agree with you. We've seen that Nintendo is okay with the February Nintendo Direct. That's when it happened this year, and for the same reason why I thought there was going to be a February Direct before it happened this year, it's the same reason why it's going to be the case this time around, I think. It's the same thing as you said.
I believe there was one the year before as well.
That's around the time. Like, they need to have an earlier Direct to announce release dates and things like that. And once we get into February, there's going to be March. We know about Triangle Strategy, but then after that, we don't know anything else. So we kind of need specific release dates. So yes, I 100% agree with you. I think we'll get an Nintendo Direct in February. Maybe they shadow drop something, maybe like a smaller game releases on the eShop or something like that. Or there's some DLC updates, things like that. Maybe we get Dread DLC in February, for example. There's things they can do to sort of tide fans over between February and March, because I do think it's going to be more of a slower period for Nintendo in terms of releases. And they're going to help us out with those shadow drops, those DLC releases, and just news like a Nintendo Direct in February. So I think we're just pretty much on the exact same page here.
Yeah, but what do you think is going to show up in that February Direct? What kind of big things are we thinking? Because there's a lot of things that could show up.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna get a February Direct, and I do believe that Nintendo will bring up Breath of the Wild 2. I know a lot of people at this point are just thinking that we're gonna have to wait until E3, and you could very well be right. But I have a hard time believing Nintendo's gonna go through both a September Direct that just happened and a February Nintendo Direct and the Game Awards, not in that order, but and not mention Zelda at all. I think they're going to mention Breath of the Wild 2 in a February Direct, and it'll be a quick little teaser. Nothing major, not like a 5-minute trailer or a 3-minute trailer, something very short, but it's short and it gives us maybe the title. Just so they have something to market throughout the year, because the sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild ain't cutting it. We need something.
Yeah, you can't put pre-orders on the sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. That ain't gonna work. Yeah,
and I also am under the impression Nintendo's about ready to blow the lid off this game, because we just had that patent be published where we saw some actual really cool mechanics for Breath of the Wild 2. Yeah, so I do think that we're going to get something for Breath of the Wild 2 in a February Direct. It's just not going to be anything super, super substantial. It's just going to be something to whet our appetite, to tide us over until E3, where they have the big blowout.
Right. But it will be better than last February, where all we got was, guys, it's still coming. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I think it'll be better than that. Well, I think they'll reconfirm it this time for Holiday 2022.
Agreed.
Instead of just 2022. And, they could give us the name, or they could just show off, like, a new mechanic that in some way changes the game to a level to where we can talk about it for a bit, even though it's not really, like, them having to show that much. I feel like Breath of the Wild has tons of mechanics that they did for the original, so sequel, I'm sure, has some stuff they could show. Yeah. But I'm not sure about the name. I kind of feel like the name's going to be E3.
You could be right.
Unless they have some kind of Direct beforehand. I was debating before the discussion whether I was going to predict that they would announce a Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel Direct before E3. Because I feel like they can't do the whole E3 2016 situation where they focus all of E3 on Breath of the Wild. It's not going to work. They have too many games now.
Yeah.
They could do that, but I don't think they will. So they either going to have a Direct for it after or before E3. I feel like that is a fact.
I am in agreement with you. I think that Breath of the Wild 2 will have a big trailer at E3, and there'll be Treehouse stuff, and there'll be a Zelda Direct later. But I'll touch on that a little bit later into the predictions video, because I want to focus on like this February Direct stuff. Right. I think Zelda will get mentioned. We agree on that. What exactly is mentioned, that's obviously debatable, but something. But then also I think we'll get release dates for Advance Wars, which was sort of leaked to be April, which, by the way, I'm predicting that will be like the April game, Advance Wars, and Triangle Strategy is already confirmed for March. So we kind of have that already. And I think we'll get release date for Splatoon 3, Advance Wars. Sunbreak will get more of a refined release date as well, which is the DLC for Monster Hunter Rise. And one thing that, did I mention Kirby already? Kirby in the Forgotten Land will also get a release date, because that's supposed to be like a spring 2022 release, so it's going to come out before E3. So we're going to get a lot of information on that and a release timing. I wouldn't be shocked that they announce like some sort of beta test fire for Splatoon 3, and maybe that's also one of the things they have come out maybe perhaps in February, since there isn't any major games around that time, just to give us something else new to play. So I could see that kind of happening there. And I'm betting that there will probably be one really cool announcement for a new game. We were debating maybe they would announce maybe Xenoblade Chronicles 3 in our previous discussion. during this direct. If it is coming out next year, I do think that will be like the surprise announcement during the direct. And if not that, maybe we see Fire Emblem instead. One or the other, I'm kind of thinking could be shown off in this early year Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's all fair. Did you mention Mario plus Rabbids? That we also need a release date for that.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with you. Even though I kind of expect Sparks of Hope to come out after E3, it could conceivably come out a little bit before. And either way, though, I think we need to have a good sort of we need to know its release date before E3 is what I think. So
yeah,
I think you're probably right. We do see that in the direct for sure with a release date.
Do you think there's any hope that they just shadow drop Advance Wars or just drop it in February shortly after the direct?
We saw eShop listings for April for Advance Wars, so I'm thinking that's when it comes out.
Okay.
But it's not even like, how much is it again? I think the game's like $50 or something. Like, it's not like a cheap release. So I don't know if it's just like shadow dropped. Yeah, I don't think Nintendo sees it as a shadow drop kind of title though. So
maybe not.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna get shadow dropped. Yeah.
Okay.
But I kind of already mentioned what I expect for March and April. I'm expecting Triangle Strategy to come out it's already been confirmed for March. I think it's gonna be the March release.
Yeah.
And I think April is gonna have Advance Wars. Now, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be one specific published Nintendo game per month. They don't have to hold to that. There can be months they can skip. There can be months where there's one that comes out one week and then the other. Like, that can totally happen. But I'm just basically sticking to like a one game per month thing because I feel like that's a pretty good sort of way to keep my sort of predictions or expectations in check.
Yeah, I agree. You guys maybe sometimes see two, but it's mostly just one.
Yeah, and if it is two, it's usually towards the second half of the year.
Yeah, second half of the year is usually a bit busier.
Yeah, like I mean, this year we had well, I think I think WarioWare, Dread, and Mario Party came all in the same year, that same month.
Ooh. Yeah, they all came out in October, right?
Well, Mario Party and Dread came out in October, but WarioWare came out September, right?
Yeah, so pretty close.
Kind of want to fact check myself now. I'm not sure. It was WarioWare Get It Together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That was a September release, but still, Dread and Mario Party, two major games, both came out in October this year. So we can see a situation like that again. I mean, heck, even in November, we saw Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. So there could be a situation where we have a couple months where there's some big releases stacked in there. But then also December was kind of like, there was something that came out, I don't even remember what it was, but there was something from Nintendo that came out in December. Was it like a Brain Age thing? Something more of, I don't remember what it was. I'm sure people in the comments are going to tell me what it is, but it was something more to the casual effect, I would say. That's just what my brain is telling me.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but there was something from Nintendo then.
Brain Academy, Brain versus Brain or something?
It might be something like that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, do you have any other predictions for March or April, or are we ready to move beyond that?
No, let's move beyond, baby.
So, I mean, I guess that means that you don't think that Kirby's coming out in March or April.
You know, that's a good point. But I'm kind of feeling May.
Me too. I got it written down here. Kirby and the Forgotten Land for May. That it may be an early May release, but May. Conceivably, I could see it come out maybe like late April. Because to your point about Advance Wars, while I think Advance Wars is going to be great, I don't think it alone is enough to sort of carry over the excitement. There needs to be maybe something else. So maybe the gap between Advance Wars and Kirby isn't that big.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Advance Wars is I don't think it's gonna sell that much. I'd be surprised if it broke 1 million. That'd be great. It's not gonna be the biggest game ever. Yeah. Whereas Kirby, it's gonna have a much larger audience there.
I think Kirby and the Forgotten Land could be the best-selling Kirby game yet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely could be. It's like, I've never been hyped for Kirby until now, and I think a lot of people feel the same, or at least with the recent Kirby's, it's been a lot less hype. There's just been a lot of just 2D Kirby and Kirby Fighters and all these Kirby spin-offs constantly, and now there's finally something new for Kirby, so Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, just sort of looking over assuming we're right about our predictions here, just looking over what kind of Nintendo has for the first half of the year, I definitely kind of feel good about predicting Nintendo has something Zelda in the February Direct, as well as a Splatoon test fire, because I do think they need to kind of fill up the first half of the year with something to sort of maintain excitement, because we get Legends Arceus in January, which is great, but if February has nothing in terms of major releases, and March just has Triangle Strategy, and April just has Advance Wars, Kirby's cool, but, like, I do think that maybe, having, like, that Zelda tease, having a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 announcement or a Fire Emblem announcement, having a Splatoon 3 test fire, things like that, maybe also some free Dread DLC as well. Things like that, I think, will help to sort of tide us over until we get to the E3 time, where Nintendo kind of just completely blows our socks off.
Yeah, I mean, we could see maybe March, we'll see a Zelda Direct help, bring some hype there. April, we'll see, maybe we'll see some Splatoon 3 test fires.
Yeah, I mean, to throw a bone towards the Zelda fan base, which I am a part of, maybe Nintendo Shadow drops Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD on the eShop.
Oh yeah, Samus Hunter was saying that they thought that maybe, an anniversary title for Zelda could have been announced at the Game Awards, but there was nothing. And I kind of thought maybe that would have been Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. So maybe they do announce that.
Yeah, but they are like Shadow drop things, because they're not going to be enhanced or anything. They're just going to be pretty much exactly as they were. Well, they can't be exactly, because they were sort of programmed with the gamepad in mind.
They'll have to change them in some ways. Maybe they'll add 60 FPS, and we'll get even more 60 FPS Zelda on Switch.
Yeah.
Nice.
So maybe that could come out at some point in the first half of 2022 to sort of fill it up a little bit.
Maybe that gets Shadow Drop February.
Maybe. Although, kind of thinking that if they have to, like, change things around for the Wii U and stuff, like, I don't know. It's making me think that maybe that's not Shadow Drop worthy. Like, it's something a little bit bigger.
I feel like the gamepad integration could just be the same. You just press start. And then they just have to rip out the bottles and replace them with something else.
Maybe, or just integrate, like, just an online system where you can still do that.
Wind Waker.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think Twilight Princess really had too much Wii U specific stuff other than the gamepad.
You know what they could do? Maybe they only give us one of them. Maybe they give us Twilight Princess because Twilight Princess Ganondorf is the Ganondorf in Breath of the Wild too. So that one's more relevant. And Wind Waker they just save for another time.
Yeah, I'd take it.
I'm sure people will want both, so we'll see what happens, but it's a possibility at least. But anyway, that kind of brings us to, like, the June time. And every June, we see E3. This time around, I think there will still be an E3, and it will have a Nintendo Direct, an E3 Nintendo Direct. And this is actually what I'm predicting for Monster Hunter Rise's expansion Sunbreak to be coming out. It's already confirmed for summer 2022, so June applies. And I think it's the kind of thing that they could take advantage of the E3 hype to get more attention out there about it. And that's what I can sort of see coming out then. And I'm predicting it for June because I am feeling that Splatoon 3 is a July game. I think that was the release date for Splatoon 2. I think they're going to stick with that timing.
That's a good point, because I was going to say I kind of feel like Monster Hunter might have come out in July. But, I can see it coming out in June instead, because
they're interchangeable.
Splatoon 3 makes sense for July, especially with how little we've seen of it.
Yeah, I could see there being some sort of Splatoon tournament or something to hype it up during E3 as well, like right beforehand. Maybe they put out like a second sort of test fire in June.
They usually, there can be multiple test fires happened before.
Yeah. So I think something like that could definitely happen for sure. But during E3, I mean, that's going to be a big sort of presentation. I think they're going to show off more Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. They're going to show off maybe Xenoblade Chronicles 3 if it is confirmed for next year. I think maybe that we're going to see a lot of Breath of the Wild 2. We're going to see a lot of Bayonetta 3.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to see Metroid Prime Remake. I think that's when it's going to be confirmed and revealed. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to look really good.
Yeah, I do think it will be pretty impressive if we've seen it for a couple years.
Yeah.
Or if it's been in development for a couple years.
Yeah.
Because, Wind Waker HD, and Twilight Princess took like, I think Wind Waker, they said it took like half a year or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure Twilight Princess only took like a year. This has been in development for a couple, so I would hope to see something like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition levels or better. A smaller game too, so more effort to put in more work. Yeah, that'd be big. Yeah. I also think that would be announced. But I'm also thinking, let's get a little zany, a little testy. Let's get a little crazy in here, and go ahead and maybe say that we might see a teaser for Prime 4. Maybe.
If it's E3 time.
Is it E3 time, baby?
So the thing is, in my opinion, Metroid Prime Remake in and of itself is a teaser for Prime 4. So
okay.
I wouldn't be shocked if we just get Metroid Prime Remake next year and we don't see Prime 4 at all until
we gotta come on,
Game Awards 2022.
Oh,
Nintendo comes back to the Game Awards. And
the most insane thing to predict because it never happens.
Well, the thing is, Nintendo wants to throw us a curveball because now since they skipped
9th year,
right? Since they
predicting it,
yeah. But since they skipped Game Awards 2021, no one's gonna be expecting it, which is why they're gonna do it.
Nobody's gonna be expecting it because we've been predicting it 8 times in a row.
Yeah,
and it's never been there.
But I'll hold off on my Game Awards speculation until later into the video. I think that you could be right. It would be a good time to tease it. I'm skeptical because I don't think they need to, because I think the Prime Remake is going to be fairly ambitious. Yeah, I mean, they could say development's going smoothly. Actually, you know what? When they announced Dread, they had to mention Metroid Prime 4. They said development is going well, and then they showed off Dread. So if they show off Metroid Prime Remake, I think they definitely need to mention it, and maybe they do a little bit more than just say development is going well again. I think it's weird to do that back-to-back years.
It's not crazy to think the game could come out, holiday 2023. A year and a half later, so... I
think you're right, actually. I think they could tease it. Because I think Metroid Prime 4 is going to have more of that Zelda-like energy where it's going to have a longer sort of reveal to release window. So you could be right. I could see them waiting a little bit longer. But yeah, it's definitely a strong chance of that for sure. For sure.
Like if you're going to have to mention it anyways, you might as well also show something. Even if it's not anything big. Just, little snippet. Maybe an actual logo. As a new Samus design.
Something.
Anything.
Something, for sure. I think it's possible. But I don't think it's necessary because of Prime Remake. But going beyond that, though, is there anything else do you think we could see around E3 time next year? I got one for you.
Okay. Hit me with it.
Maybe they don't do it at E3, but it could maybe be around E3 time. And that would be the first trailer for the Mario movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they would definitely show that E3. Yeah, that's definitely happening. Yeah. That's gonna be dope.
I don't think we wait all the way until like September before we get a trailer for a movie coming out in like December. Yeah, I think 6 months beforehand. Yeah, maybe it happens before, but I think around summertime is a good time to do that. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot to prove with this. I feel like this isn't the kind of movie that you just announce and then release or actually show a trailer and then release it like 2 months later.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to give people time to get to grips with the character. I think there's gonna be a lot of negative reactions right off the bat. Just people if Mario talks, he's gonna talk. Obviously, he's gonna talk, and it's not gonna be, he's gonna be Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a lot of negative reactions off the bat, and I think there's gonna be time for people to look at it and be like, okay, I know this isn't Charles Martinet. I know that Mario's actually talking right now. This is weird, but I'm feeling this. I'm getting used to it. And I think I can now go to the movie and enjoy this. People gotta have time to see things that they've never seen before in that kind of context, and really give it a little bit of time to sink in and prove itself.
Yeah, for sure. Going beyond that, though, do you expect anything else to show up there? Like, do you expect maybe Mario Kart 9 or Mario Odyssey 2 or the long range Donkey Kong or anything like that?
I definitely think we're going to see some stuff for 2023. So, I mean, any of those would be good. I'm trying to think.
Well, by this point, if there's a Pokemon Presents, we'll have at least the first look at Generation 9.
That's true.
Yeah. It may not happen.
Yeah.
It may be mentioned during the E3 Direct, but there'll be a Presents either before or afterwards that will be more... The Presents would have to happen before in order for it to show up at the Direct at all. So I think that maybe we see a Presents like right before E3, and that's when they announce Gen 9, and we will see like a little piece of it, maybe even some Treehouse, during the E3 show.
Oh, you think they'll announce it during the show?
Yeah, and actually on the note of Treehouse, I also think... No. There'll be a Pokemon Presents announcing Generation 9, but there'll be a small little tidbit trailer in the Direct, and there'll be a Treehouse segment on the game during E3 time. And on the note of Treehouse, I think Metroid Prime Remake will have a Treehouse segment. I think Splatoon 3 will have a Treehouse segment. If Xenoblade 3 is coming out, that'll have a Treehouse segment. And Breath of the Wild 2 is
gonna have like 5.
Yeah, there'll be a big trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, like a big one. And there'll be a Treehouse. Yeah. I expect that. I mentioned Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but if Xenoblade Chronicles 3 isn't coming out next year, I think Fire Emblem is actually coming out instead. One or the other.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit, and we usually see a couple of those in a generation.
Yep.
So
it's about time.
It's about time we see like a remake or something
of
one of the older games.
Yep, it is about time. They kind of fit a similar sort of niche, right? Like the anime RPG sort of fan base. So yeah, one or the other. I think by E3 we'll see one or the other, and whichever one it is, they'll have Treehouse segment. In the previous video we talked about we don't think Donkey Kong is super likely to come out next year. At this point, it could happen. So if it is, then obviously it's at E3. But if it's not, then I don't think it's announced at E3 either. I think they wait a little bit longer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if anything else specific that I can predict, but nothing's coming to mind at the moment. E3 is still a bit of far out. Well,
yeah, but you just look. Considering your point though about not knowing too much about the year after, that strengthens my thinking that maybe you're right and Prime 4 could be teased, because then at that point we know about Pokemon Generation 9 and Metroid Prime 4 for next year, so we kind of have a couple things to already sort of look forward to. I can see that kind of works actually. But going beyond E3, I think we already talked about July. Splatoon 3 comes out. I think for August we can maybe see Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope come out then. And the reason I think that is because, well, the initial Mario Rabbids came out in August, so I could see Sparks of Hope coming out in a similar time period.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like you disagree, so I think we're ready to move on here. The September to December period, I have a hard time sort of slotting what exactly could fit in. I'm thinking, because Bayonetta 3 is coming out next year. So Bayonetta 3 is coming out, Metroid Prime Remake's coming out, and Breath of the Wild 2, all those games are coming out between September and December, in my opinion. And here in my notes, I have Xenoblade Chronicles 3 / Donkey Kong / Fire Emblem. I don't think Donkey Kong's coming out, so it's between Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Fire Emblem, also fitting into that sort of 4-month period. So, slotted in there. I think one of those will be in there, and then also maybe some sort of like other Mario spin-off game that I can't really fathom right now. Maybe Strikers. Ooh, that'd be cool.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that would actually be announced at E3.
I'm trying. I don't hear if you mentioned it, but Bayonetta 3. We gotta figure out when that's coming out in that time period.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
It's somewhere in that window.
I'm thinking September. I think that's a September title. I think there's going to be a couple in September. There usually is. And I think Bayonetta 3 is going to share a slot with something else in September. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you're right with that one. And you know what? Just thinking about 2022 games, if Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is not coming out next year, that'll be another one of those games that will be confirmed for the year after. Either that or Fire Emblem. So by this point next year, we'll know about Prime 4, Pokemon Generation 9, and either Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Fire Emblem. So like we'll have a decent idea of something.
Right. And I wanted to go back and actually give it a little bit more reason. Bayonetta 2 did release September 20th, 2014.
Okay.
So there you go.
That's something.
September
on the Wii U.
That's something.
Yeah, that's something.
I'm trying to figure out. Let's see when the first one came out.
I could see Bayonetta 3 being an October game, but then with also Metroid Prime Remake, that's tough. That's tough, but that's why it's kind of like a window for me, right? Like I think there's like a 4 or 5 games that'll come out in that 4-month window, and they're all pretty big deals. So, yeah.
Okay, the first game came out in October, so yeah, September or October.
September or October. Prime Remake I expect around September or October as well. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 I could see coming out in like early September. I don't expect anything necessarily major in December, but if anything's gonna come out in December, I could see maybe Bayonetta 3 coming out then. If any of the major games will be coming out, and I think Breath of the Wild 2 is a November game. I just think that's a November game.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't have Pokemon, then it makes most sense to put Zelda in November.
Yep. Yeah, historically that's when 3D Zeldas come out, excluding Breath of the Wild because it was delayed to that time. So, definitely that's what I'm sort of thinking there. And that, I mean, that kind of pretty much carries us throughout the year. I think by December, well, actually, there's one thing I missed. I think there's going to be there'll be a September Direct, and in that September Direct, I think Donkey Kong will finally get revealed, and that'll be confirmed for next year as well. So then by September, we'll know about like 4 or 5 pretty good games that are coming out next year. So it won't be like, oh man, there's nothing coming out next year. We'll know about games by a time by this time next year, we'll have a good idea.
I feel like we have a good idea of a lot of the high points. We're just not sure where they fall exactly, and we need things to fill it out. Yeah,
definitely. But I also think there's going to be a Zelda Direct, though. I think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be such a big deal that's going to get its own dedicated Direct. And I can see that coming a little bit after September Nintendo Direct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be that close. It depends.
The timing is challenging because it could go either way. But I feel like there's room for a Zelda Direct.
I do agree. I mean, I said earlier, I think this discussion, that I thought there was going to be one either before or after E3. So yeah, August or September. Well, September, or if they got the Direct, so maybe August or October. But I mean, if they blow out enough at E3, then they can wait a bit. They don't have to talk about it.
Unless they handle like Smash Brothers, where like the second half of the Direct is just Zelda.
I feel like you need to. If they're not going to have a Direct for E3, then they definitely need like half the Direct to be Zelda.
I don't think they're going to do that again, though. Because there's other games that deserve attention. Like Splatoon 3 is also going to be a really big deal. Prime Remake, Bayonetta. I don't think they're going to hog too much. They
can show a lot in Treehouse.
Keep in mind, 2018.
Zelda's a very good game for that.
Yeah, but just keep in mind, 2018 was fairly barren compared to what we're looking at for this year. Like Smash Brothers was it. That and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So I think, and there was also Super Mario Party, but you get my point. Like that compared to what we're talking about here, like all these other games that I think need to be discussed more. So I don't see them doing that again.
Maybe get like a quarter. They get a nice 10-minute segment.
Yeah, a big segment, but
it
won't.
A whole bunch during the Treehouse.
Yeah.
I do think that the Breath of the Wild's fine to show off in the Treehouse. It's a gameplay, adventure, exploration focused game. I feel like you can show off a lot of the features just fine. You don't need trailers or anything. You can just go and show the game.
Yep, we're on the same page. I think Zelda is going to be like the big thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, what's bigger than Zelda?
We
literally don't have anything.
But I think this pretty much brings us to December. I already noted earlier that I don't think Super Mario Odyssey 2 or Mario Kart 9 are coming out this year.
Yeah.
I think one of those comes out in 2023, and then the other comes out 2024. I think that's when we're looking at like Switch 2. But none of those are coming out this year. We agreed on that. We kind of talked about that in the previous video as well. But in December, I do think Nintendo will have a presence at the Game Awards again. I think either if Metroid Prime 4 does not get teased at E3, it will be teased at the Game Awards. And also Breath of the Wild 2 will be a Game of the Year nomination, and maybe they announce DLC then. I can see that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we could definitely see DLC for the new game. I mean, I think it depends. I never saw the numbers for how many people bought the DLC for Breath of the Wild. I wonder if that was. I imagine it was fairly popular.
I have a hard time
Most of the people I
believing.
knew bought it.
I have a hard time believing that they won't do DLC. I think it's worth noting that this was pretty early on into Nintendo's DLC expenditures. So I think since then they've gotten a better handle on how to do DLC. So I think even if they were not super ecstatic with how DLC went for Breath of the Wild, when you look at how they handled DLC for pretty much all their other major games, I think that they'll be willing to do it again.
I mean, that's a fair bet. So
yeah,
I would love to see that at good old Game Awards 2022. See some Zelda at the Game Awards again, please.
Yeah. Now, one counter argument is because it's a sequel, maybe with Breath of the Wild 2, they will exhaust all of the Breath of the Wild style ideas with that, and there will be no carryover with DLC, and that'll be the end of the Breath of the Wild style Zeldas. When I say style, I just mean like that timeline, not the open air. Like open air is going to maintain forever, or at least
probably the art style. Which
it'll be the end of the art style and that specific Link in Zelda. Yeah,
I think it will after the DLC.
Okay, you think?
But,
yeah.
And yeah, I don't see us having a sequel to the sequel of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at any point.
What if?
Well,
I guess we'll have to see how the story plays out, right?
I want something new after Breath of the Wild too.
It would have to be a different area. It couldn't just be Hyrule again.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd take like a Spirit Tracks.
Or Zelda, or Space.
That's the longest.
Zelda in
Is
Space.
that the longest running Zelda continuity? I guess it's not really Link. It's not the same Link, but
it's not.
They're like directly. The stories are directly linked.
I don't. That's hard to say because I mean like.
I think in Spirit Tracks he plays like the ancestors.
Well, if Breath of the Wild takes place after Twilight Princess, then that's definitely the longest running continuity. Because, that's not good at timeline conversations. That's just not. But it's just not the same Link, so I don't even know if that really counts. So I'm just gonna say, let's not talk about it. That's a whole other discussion.
That is a whole other can of worms.
It's a whole other discussion. But I feel like we've covered it pretty well. I think 2022 is gonna be a big year. It's interesting because there'll be some announcements in 2022 of new games, but we kind of have a good idea of what's already coming. Like, we know about most of the big ones. Legends Arceus, Splatoon 3, Breath of the Wild 2 will probably be the 3 best-selling Nintendo games next year. Then, you have things like Kirby and Bayonetta 3. Those are going to be big. Maybe we have a couple other nice announcements like Xenoblade 3 and Metroid Prime Remake, but that's what we're getting next year. And I think that'll be awesome. Now, we didn't mention Star Fox, we didn't mention F-Zero, we didn't mention Kid Icarus, we didn't mention Golden Sun, or anything like that. Could those come out? Sure, but they'd probably be on the smaller end of releases, or maybe some of those we see the year after.
Yeah, and it's just really hard to predict those. I mean,
they're exactly. They're very hard to predict. I'm sure there's going to be a couple surprises that we did not mention in this discussion.
There's definitely tons. We didn't even mention any third-party content.
No, this is already a 45-minute discussion, so I don't think I think we've reached the limit here. I told you it would be 15 minutes, and you're like, no, I don't think we're gonna have enough time. I think it's gonna, I was like, maybe we'll make it closer to 20. It'll be fine. Yeah, it's 45. So hopefully the editing won't be too much here, but it'll be great. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. If you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Brandon, do you have any final thoughts before we close things out here?
2022 is gonna be dope. Don't be too disappointed that we're not getting new hardware, because getting a new Zelda instead. Let's go. Yeah. Next year is gonna be awesome. All right, guys. See you later. Take care. Bye. Bye, guys.